Hello everyone, welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review something that's mostly pretty good, but maybe one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks and sure remain in the depths of hell. Now, I know I stopped making movie reviews for a few weeks. That was because with my original schedule for season 6, I need to wait on certain things so I could do the rest of the season. But then I realized I'm probably not going to get them either in time or for the rest of this year, pretty much. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just um let's just get some movies that I wanted to discuss, I've been wanting to discuss for a while, and some requests that I've gotten from some fans and friends of mine, which actually, ironically enough, will be the next review, which I'll let you guys know at the end of this one. But yeah, so we are back, and we're going to be finishing off season 6 with a whole bunch of movies that either came out fairly recently or stuff that I should have discussed a while ago. But yeah, so we're gonna kick off the rest of season 6 with a film that if you guys could tell by the title of the thumbnail, it's one that has been sweeping the film industry with in terms of musical biopics, and that is Elvis, directed by Baz Luhrmann, and was released on June 24th of 2022, which is the year I'm recording this in. Now, initially, so this is my history with this film. Initially, I didn't really care about it, as I usually do with most modern movies nowadays. I was like, oh, they're making a movie about Elvis, whatever. I'm sure it will be fine, but me personally, I don't really care. But then I started getting into music a lot more recently, because before I really only listened to like one or two artists before, but now within the last few months I've been expanding my horizons really in music because before I really only listened to Michael Jackson, Queen. Now I'm getting more into like the Beatles and Elvis Presley. And so listening to more of his music really made me start to appreciate, why so many people liked him. And then I was like, oh yeah, there was a movie based on him that was released this year. Might as well check it out. So I went ahead and got the Blu-ray, which, was, kind of like an exciting moment, because honestly I was like, this is actually one of the first times that I'm actually excited, that I can remember in recent memory, excited for a new release movie that came out fairly recently on home media. And I'm like, holy, I want to get that, really. Because usually nowadays, whenever it's new releases like on home media, I'm like, you should go for like the older stuff, or like older films, I guess. But this was like one of those cases where I'm like, I want to see what this film is like. So yeah, I got it. And then I've had this for I think about a month now, and I only like watched it last night for the purposes of this review. And what I think about it, you guys got to weigh on that one. But yeah, so let's get on to the review, shall we? So this was made with a budget of around $85 million, which honestly is, I thought it would be kind of larger. I thought it would be at least like 100 mil, but yeah, 85 million. Domestically, it made about 151 million, and worldwide, it made about 286 million. So this was a financial success, and I think it made about another. At the time of this recording, I think it made about another 6 million in home media sales. So, yeah. And like I said earlier, this was directed by Baz Luhrmann, who I've never really heard of before this movie came out. But apparently, people who have seen his films before, really, if they didn't know who was directing this, they would kind of they explained that they would recognize that this was a Baz Luhrmann movie due to the way that the film was kind of edited, which I'll get to in a little bit. But honestly, actually seeing this movie, and I'm like, okay, and now I'm actually kind of interested to see what this guy has done, because, not only he did it, visually, well, yeah, visually he did a very good job, and then the editing style was really interesting to me, at least. There was a lot of like kind of like pan zooms, and then like kind of like quick cuts, and a lot of kind of like visual effects sort of thing. Um, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this director now. So maybe uh, I maybe talk about some of his other films at some point, but we'll see. Uh, so the plot really, there's not really much of one. It's basically just Elvis's life, really. Um, I mean, when I when I looked up plot synopsis that other what sites gave on like on Google, Wikipedia, stuff like that, they really kind of just said I have it written down right here. Basically, from his rise to fame to his unappreciated superstardom, rock and roll icon Elvis Presley maintains a complicated relationship with his enigmatic manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Over the course of 20 years, central to Presley's journey and happiness is one of the most influential people in his life, Priscilla. That's pretty much about it, and it's it's kind of difficult to try and especially with musical biopics like this, and like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocky Man. They are really just about um they're really just about the life of a certain artist like Elvis Presley, Freddie Mercury, or Elton John. And like this film, this covers his life from the day that Colonel Tom Parker met him and then started managing him in music all the way up to his tragic death in 1977. So I was like, I wasn't expecting him to go fully into depth with his childhood like Rocky Man did. And yeah, this kind of took the direction that Bohemian Rhapsody did, where they kind of went more for the um they went more for they went they went more towards like when he like started his music career, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you and it's not 100% his music stuff. There's within the first like half an hour we do get certain scenes from his childhood that kind of explain why he like wants to get into music as a as a teen. Um, so yeah, we start in I think the year they don't specify the years in like in the beginning, but I think it's I think mid to late 50s, and then we get into the like the 60s as they're like touring around, and then we obviously get to the 68 comeback special, and then after that we get kind of the last chunk of the movie is really primarily set in Las Vegas during his final years of music. From I want to say, I think it's from 1970 all the way up to 1977. Um. So yeah, and it for I've heard from most people that it was or I heard from some people that um it was either like really good, and then some people said it was pretty good, and then a few people actually did say it was kind of just boring. Especially some people in my family where I was like, oh, I wanted to see this new Elvis movie, and one of them was like, yeah, there was really nothing much going on with it. So like I was a bit worried about that, but then I actually watched it. I'm like, there's actually a lot going on here. I will admit, it it does kind of drag in the middle, where it's just kind of like him touring, and then we kind of get like the subtle intro, like kind of hint to his drug problem back in like the early to mid 60s when he's touring and he's like kind of getting like sleep deprived from it, and Yeah, I have to admit that kind of lull in the film is a bit kind of, or that part of the film is a bit boring until we get to the '68 comeback special. That's where I get like kind of rejuvenated into the story because it kind of like in real life that was that kick that Elvis needed to get back into music. And yeah, but let's stop talking about the plot itself for a bit because really, we can keep on talking about this all day. Let's talk about the cast members themselves. So we have the big man himself, Austin Butler, who plays Elvis Presley, and I was worried that it was gonna be like, not to shit on Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury, but I was afraid that it was gonna be like a really good performance overall, but the syncing between his voice and the music was gonna be complete shite, and I was just not gonna like kind of be. I was gonna be undecisive about it, and then there was like, well, what if I like it too much? Like, kind of like Elton John, played by Taron Egerton, where they kind of just they just let him do both the acting as Elton John and do his own recording, which again isn't a bad thing, but it was just like that would just kind of feel samey for Austin Butler's performance. But boy, did he surprise me! He does a spectacular job emulating Elvis's voice, and if you are paying attention to the movie well enough, you can actually notice a slight difference in his voice as the film goes on. In the first half, or the first act of the movie, we kind of hear like a more kind of like higher pitch Elvis voice, and then as the movie goes on, I think a really good comparison would be from the first concert that he goes to, that we see like when Colonel Tom Parker like first sees him performing, to the '68 comeback special. That really does show you that, or even better, his first show in Las Vegas, around, I want to say, the hour and a half mark. Like, just comparing those two scenes together and his voice really does show you that he was dedicated to this role, and he was like, I'm gonna add the subtlest little twinge to my voice to kind of make it show that yes, he is getting older and his voice is getting deeper. So I really do like that Austin Butler put the time and effort to do that with his character, and according to some reports, he even continued to act like Elvis after production wrapped on the movie. So that just shows you that like the lasting impact that certain icons of music can have on certain actors. So while we have a great performance by Austin Butler, we turn to the flip side of that coin, and we talk about Colonel Tom Parker, who is played by Tom Hanks. Nothing against Tom Hanks. I fucking love Tom Hanks. Him as Woody in all the Toy Story movies. Him in Forrest Gump. He has so many great, like Saving Private Ryan, like all great performances. But him as Colonel Tom Parker, I think, is the weakest point of the movie for me. And the reason I say that is because it seems like he's trying to impersonate the voice, he's trying to do an impersonation of the guy that he's in, he's putting in, he's portraying, but it seems like that he's trying to only he's only trying to put out his eccentric side of that person, when in actuality he probably wasn't like that. I mean, he could have had those moments, but I don't think he would have been that 90% of the time. And I'm not saying that overall his performance is bad. There's one scene that I'll get to later, my favorite scenes, that he really does show off his acting skills and really does actually sell the role of Colonel Tom Parker. But overall, I just think that his performance in this movie is the weakest part. It just seems like everyone, it seems like everyone was putting in like a very serious performance, and yet his character seems like out of a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon. Like, that's what it seemed like to me, and it was just so jarring that I was just like, was his character really like necessary? I mean, in terms of the story of Elvis Presley, it is, but I feel like that you could have gotten someone better to do it. And what kind of makes this point worse is that he's the one that's kind of narrating the entire story, and it just kind of seems, it just kind of sucks that, he is basically the voice that we hear throughout the entire movie, and yet he's the most, he's kind of like the worst character, and yet you have to hear his voice throughout the entire movie. So, yeah, that is, in my opinion, the weakest part about it, or about this movie. Everything else is either great or fantastic, such as the rest of the cast members. We have Olivia DeJonge, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I butchered it, as Priscilla. She does good with her performance. She doesn't really have that many scenes that she really has the ability to kind of pull out her acting chops, except for like one or two scenes that I can think about. We also have Darkry Montgomery, I think that's how you say it, as Steve Binder, who is the director of the 68 Comeback Special. Now, our local nerds, if you're watching this, you probably know you probably recognize Montgomery as the reboot version of Jason in the 2017 the 2017 Power Rangers movie. So, going from that to this movie, it's really kind of like a kind of a big step up, where I thought his performance in the 2017 Power Rangers movie was kind of but his performance in this, in the few scenes that he does have, is really freaking good. We also have Richard Roxburgh as Vernon Presley, who is, either it's his actual father or father-in-law, because I think there's a line in the movie that mentions that I think his father passed away at some point. So I'm just going to say father-in-law, but if I am wrong about that, at least I did address it, but I think I'm just going to say father-in-law, but again, he could very well be his actual father. He does good. He does very good with the material that he's given, and you really do see when he's like either like emotionally stricken or like trying to comfort his son in times of need. It really does work. And then finally, in terms of the main cast members that I can really talk about, because this film has a lot of people in it that really have kind of like bit parts and don't really, at least in my opinion, don't really amount anything to the story, except for, little character sparks in Elvis, which I guess is kind of factual. But honestly, if I wrote down every single person that, influenced Elvis in some way, this video would at least be like an hour long or two. So, just to kind of save me some time, I'm only going to talk about the central cast members that really have a big part of either Elvis's life or the movie in general. And lastly, we have Helen Thompson as Gladys Presley, who is obviously the mother to Elvis. She does good. She does very good. And actually, she kind of is involved partially with one of my favorite scenes in the film. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, I think she did great with the role. So, back to the movie itself before we get on to the fun facts and stuff like that. Overall, I think that the going back to Austin Butler's performance, I think the way that they this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier. The mixing of his actual voice to the like the Elvis music, like, because sometimes they have him like actually singing, which is it's very good. But then there's moments where it's like Austin Butler like talking as Elvis, and then once he gets into like the music, it they just use like the Elvis like the actual Elvis songs, and the mixing on like the transitions between that is so goddamn good. There are It's a little bit, obviously it's a little bit more noticeable to tell when it's going from Austin Butler's voice to Elvis's voice, like actual Elvis, compared to Austin Butler doing it for the entire way. But still, I think I can only recall one moment in the entire movie where that happened, and I was like, oh, that's obvious, and like that kind of drew me out of the movie a bit. But the rest of the time, I was like, wow, that actually really synced up well. And to talk about favorite scenes, uh, I really honestly don't really have a least favorite scene, because honestly overall, if I had a least favorite scene, it'd probably be like the start of the middle act, or the second act, where it's just him kind of like touring and touring and touring, and then him just kind of more resentful as it went on. That's the only part that I could really think of where I was just like, whatever. And then, like I said, once we got to them making the 68 comeback special, I was like, yes, this is, like, this is starting to get good again. But, so, my favorite scene, so I'm going to talk about two scenes, but this first one is going to be, like, my actual favorite scene, and then the second one is going to be my most memorable scene. But, yeah. So my favorite scene in the entire movie is when during that kind of like I mentioned, that act that starts with the second act, where he's just kind of touring and touring and touring. We see like intercut shots of both like as he's touring and going along. We see shots of his family and how it's kind of falling apart, to the point where his mother is drinking a lot, and she unfortunately collapses on the stairs, and she does pass away. And then we cut to the funeral at the Elvis, at the Presley's house, and the father is sitting on the stairs, like emotionally broken, like he's bawling his eyes out, and the colonel is sitting there, like trying to talk to him, like you're gonna be all right, and he's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, where's Elvis at? And he's like, I tried to talk to him, and he hasn't gone out. Hasn't come downstairs like the entire day. And he's like you, like he needs you right now. Like he needs you. So can you try and go up and talk to him and see what you can do? And so he walks up and he opens up the door to his to Gladys' closet, and Elvis is sitting there bawling at his mother's, like with his mother's clothes. Like, why did she have to go? Why did she have to go? And this was the scene I was talking about earlier, where Tom Hanks, like this, there was only like one scene with Tom Hanks that he really actually is good at as Tom Parker, and this is that scene where he is he like Elvis is crying. He's like, why did this have to happen? Like, I can't go on. And then Tom Parker is just basically like, okay, you need to like get your stuff together, and you need to be by your father's side, because he needs you right now, and he will probably end up, I don't think they actually say it, but honestly, he probably would have ended up with the same fate as the mother. So he's just like, okay, your father needs you, like, man up and go and face it. Because if you stay secluded like this, it's gonna haunt you for the rest of your life. So just go out, face it, and then everything will be fine. And I will, because this is right before he goes off to, or Elvis goes off to the military, because of the how they were like the press and like the the press was like, "Oh, dude, why, like we don't like Elvis's movements and shit like that." So they were like, "Okay, either he cuts it out or we sue him." And then it's that one show where he's just like, "I'm gonna show them what the real Elvis is like," and then he does it, like he does, his typical Elvis, and um, yeah. So they were like, "Okay, well, this is the best thing that we can do for him," and then, you know, as like as he's going to do like his final show before he goes to the military, that's when his mother passes away. So he's like, "Okay, you'll you'll go to the military for about like 6 months, and I'll stay home with your family, and I will help out, and I will carry out your mother's legacy. Like anything I do, it will be in your mother's name. I promise." And then they both just embrace each other, and it's just like, fuck, man. Oh, that's so emotional. And yeah, and then yeah, he goes off to the military. He cuts his hair, and he heads off to the military for 6 months, and then he comes right back, and he does several more skits, and then we get to the 68 comeback special, and this is what I was talking about with my memorable scene, is not the entire like build up to the 68 special itself, is the final part of the 68 special where uh I think it's Kennedy who got because they mentioned how Martin Luther King got shot, and then they mentioned how Kennedy got shot, and then I think one other person, like, and when they're off in Vegas. But at this point, Kennedy has just been shot, and it's spreading around the news, and then Colonel Tom Parker is like, "We got a show to do," and like, because they were like, "Okay, we're gonna put a message out, but we're gonna put a message out there," and Colonel Tom Parker's like, "Elvis doesn't do messages," and I'm like, "Well, you fucking dick." And then it's just him and Elvis in the room, and he's like, "Okay, but you're gonna go out there tomorrow, and you're gonna end the show with a Christmas song." And then we have the build up, and you can see he goes up to the piano, and he's like, "Here comes Santa Claus," and then you get a little exchange between him and Steve, and then finally we see this liner note that has "Here comes Santa Claus" on one side, and on the other side is "If I Could Dream." And we see him started like the kind of like this, like we hear like the piano version of the melody in the background as Elvis is singing the beginning parts of the song, and then we get like a transition to the set with the Christmas stuff, and then everyone's talking and talking and talking, and then we hear the build up, of the music, and then we see Elvis walking around in that fantastic white suit. So he's walking out, show's about to start, and then we see like the camera, like the coordinator be like, "Camera, turn around," and then we get Austin Butler's interpretation of the "If I Can Dream" performance, and oh my god, I lost my shit when I saw this. And you know what? Screw it. I'll be honest, I even sat up and sang along to it, because honestly, it was so it was so I don't know how to describe it. It was so like amazing seeing how accurate Austin Butler was doing the move. It's so close to the original 68 special. It was insane that I couldn't hold it in, and I just let it out. And I'm like, I can't. I have to let it through. So, yeah. And I think out of everything in the movie, yeah, I mentioned that the closet scene between Elvis and Parker was my favorite scene. But if I had the one scene to go back to every single time, it will be that scene from the 68 comeback special segment of "If I Can Dream." That basically just encapsulates for me everything that this movie does right. Austin Butler's fantastic performance, the movements that he can pull off so well, the direction of it, and the acting from everyone else as they just see this amazing performance. It was so good. So yeah, moving on to the final row stretch of the review. Really, I have two fun facts for this. One is that Austin Butler himself, his hair is not dark brown. In fact, his hair is actually blonde, and he had it specifically dyed for this movie to a dark brown, and even went to the point of having a dark brown or jet black wig with really prominent sideburns, for you compare it to the hair. You compare it from the early years, from the 50s, then to when he kind of shaves it, or at least cuts it down and comes back to the US, and then pretty much up to the 68 special, and then for the Vegas section, you can see that it gets a lot more kind of more thinner, and then a lot more bushiness on the sideburns. But yeah, those are, I think, prosthetic sideburns. And then yeah, he would have a wig on sometimes, especially I think for those early moments, or for those early scenes. So yeah, this guy was committed. And then the second part, which I was surprised to learn about. If you want to know every single kind of is this true or false, there are probably hundreds of videos out on the internet right now talking about the differences, or which parts are accurate and which ones are, or which parts are not, of this film. But one of the things I was actually kind of happy to hear about is that basically everything that you see happen about everything that happened during the 68's comeback special, where it's Colonel Tom Parker saying oh, this has to be a Christmas special, and Elvis being appalled by it. Everything about that is basically true. Elvis was appalled of doing a Christmas special, and worked with both the director Steve Binder and the producer Bob Finkel to make it more of a kind of a history of his career. And then obviously ending it off with the "If I Could Dream" segment. I loved that entire segment was pretty much true, and I really do like that. And again, like I said earlier, if you want to look up what parts are accurate and which ones are not, like I said, there are probably hundreds of videos out on YouTube right now that go really into depth about it. Obviously, we're going to go into the music, and obviously besides all the Elvis music that they used, the music was composed by a guy named Elliot Wheeler, who I've never really heard of before this movie. But the score for this film is actually really good for all the dramatic moments in it, and it works really well. I think the soundtrack is I don't know if Elliot's contributions to the film have been released on officially, but there is a soundtrack release of all the Elvis music that's used in it, from both the real life Elvis and Austin Butler himself. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So, final thoughts on Elvis. I really enjoyed this. I really think that this is a really good musical biopic, and it is certainly one of the better ones that we've gotten over the last few years. Honestly, almost either I would say at on the same level as Rocket Man. This is really that good. The only downside that I really have to this movie is, like I said earlier, the start of the second act, where really it's just him kind of going touring, and that kind of just dragged it out a bit for me. And obviously, the weakest part overall for the film was Colonel Tom Parker himself, played by Tom Hanks, who kind of just felt like he just didn't really fit well with the story that they were trying to push out for this film, at least in my opinion. I feel like dialed them back a little bit, it probably would have made the film a lot better. But as the film stands, it is really good. Obviously, if it wasn't for kind of the dragging of the plot at the beginning of the second act, and if they just dial back his the Colonel's kind of eccentricness in the film, this would have easily gotten an A plus for me. But because of those stipulations, I have to give this film an A minus. But it is very good, and I do plan on returning back to this film at least a few more times. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, or my review of Elvis. I will be hopefully getting back to weekly reviews. We'll see about it, but yeah. So the next review that I will be doing will be on Bullet Train, which was also released this year. That will be next week's review. And then I'm still trying to kind of figure out what the remaining weeks will be. I'll be spending about the next week trying to figure out what the next few weeks will be. But for the meantime, at least I'll let you guys know that the next review will be on Bullet Train. And after that, again, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing after that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this review, and click right here to go to my channel, or click down on my username down there. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notified when future videos are coming out. I'm trying to hit my subscriber goal for the year of 150 subscribers. So if you guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because if we can get to 150 by the end of the year, that would mean a lot to me. We are about 10 subs away, and the current date for me right now is December 17th. So we are about 14 days away from the end of the year. So if we can get up, to 150 within 14 days, that would mean the world to me. And you can click over here to watch the latest 2 videos. Stay tuned for tomorrow, because I will be doing kind of like an update video, basically explaining where I've been, because even though I've been uploading, I've been doing movie stuff. So I'll be explaining that, and as well as some other future as well as some other movie and TV topics that I haven't been able to really discuss on the channel before. That will be mentioned in that video. So that will be hopefully uploaded tomorrow, and then next Saturday we'll be doing Bullet Train. So yeah, guys, also check out my social media pages, my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Twitch page, my Letterboxd page, and I have a Discord server as well, so you guys can go and check down in the description below, or go to my about section on my channel, and there will be a link there as well. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this little video, or this review, and stay tuned for tomorrow for a little update video, and next Saturday for my review on Bullet Train. Live long and prosper. Out.